Valentine's is around the corner, and what better than to talk about a love story? As a lonely weeb, I've watched a lot of anime and have seen a lot of female love interests who show love in strange ways. We got the typical tsunderes who are just loud and annoying for the most part, as well as yanderes who are a little more extreme as they tend to be more obsessed with their partner. They tend to be very possessive to very unhealthy lengths, and they possess a lot of aggression even to the point that they're homicidal. A yandere shows off a lot of psychotic behavior, and they tend to have a violent tendency and devotion toward anyone getting close to their love interest. Or even the love interest themselves. Seems crazy, right? Well, these kinds of people are scary, but they are only really tied to fiction. Until someone proved me wrong. So today, I wanted to discuss the story of Yuka Takaoka, who became known as a real-life yandere. This girl would become infamous for her crazy behavior, as she attempted to stab her lover. So before I start the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. This story is something that might make someone reconsider their relationship status, as this is the story of a real-life yandere. This is the story of Yuka Takaoka and her boyfriend Phoenix Luna, and how Yuka's obsession turned homicidal. So Yuka Takaoka was born in Japan on January 28, 1998. As for where she came from or her upbringing is unknown to the general public. Strangely enough, the most I could find was that she was studying at a university, but eventually dropped out. After she dropped out, she started working at a hostess bar. Hostess and host bars for the uniformed are a type of nightclub in Japan where the staff cater to customers by giving them drinks and chatting with the customer. These types of bars tend to be tame in nature and have specific rules against intimacy. These types of bars attract males who attend hostesses to talk to women after work. Customers tend to unwind and have an engaging conversation with any of the women. This is similar to geishas in Japan, who are female entertainers. This is a more traditional form of entertainment, but the hostess bar is a more modern version of the traditional geisha. There are also host bars which are the male counterpart to a hostess bar, and these seem to have gotten popular in recent years. Yuka was working at her job as a manager, and eventually she began to go to a host bar where she would meet Phoenix Luna, a host who she quickly fell in love with. Phoenix grew up in Tokyo's Toshogi prefecture, and he had a pretty rough life as his parents were having difficulty raising him and his siblings, who he had lost touch with. Phoenix ended up in the foster care system when his father had abandoned him and his mother couldn't afford to raise him. After a while, he would end up homeless and he would eventually land a job at a host bar, and from there he would work his way up, and that's where he met Yuka in October of the year 2018. Yuka was looking for love at the time, and she was looking for a boyfriend at a host bar, which is directly against the rules for any host or hostess to do, but they would begin to talk more and more frequently over the span of a few months. With Yuka being a regular customer at the host bar, accounts say that she would spend the whopping 1 million yen a month, which is roughly 9,000 US dollars. She would only talk to Phoenix. They would also meet outside of the bar, again which is against the rules for a host or hostess to do, but they kept everything private and would hang out together, and eventually Yuka wanted to become a couple, to which Phoenix agreed, not knowing what would come to him. But as they began to date, Yuka laid out some rules for Phoenix. Yuka wanted Phoenix to not flirt with other girls. That would be fine and dandy if Phoenix's job didn't entail him to have some flirty conversation with his customers. As long as it's not too intimate, of course. But Yuka felt a sense of jealousy towards the women who Phoenix flirted with and wanted him to find a normal office job. Phoenix denied the request as he felt a sense of loyalty to his place of work because they took him in when he was at a low point. He made a counteroffer in which he would still work at the bar, but he would still hang out with her after work. This broke Yuka's heart, and she would become depressed, as this was seen as a betrayal in her mind. The irony of this situation is apparent, as she was a hostess and she was worried about her boyfriend's job as a host. Yuka's affection was a little overbearing, and Phoenix saw nothing wrong as they would frequent many places together, from cafe to movie theaters. They did it all. Phoenix thought she was just being sweet at first, but soon she started doing crazy shit, like checking his phone frequently and attending the bar at any point. She was becoming more and more obsessed with Phoenix, so she would let this continue. She was becoming a crazy girlfriend that would hover around her boyfriend too much. In all honesty, I'm surprised that Phoenix was none the wiser, and that would be a mistake he would pay for. One day, while she was going about her daily routine of checking up on Phoenix, she found some pictures between Phoenix and a girl which Yuka believed to be evidence of cheating. Whether that's true or not is yet to be confirmed, as she didn't question it, and this could have been a random picture of Phoenix with a client or something like that. But this would be the start of her crazy plan of committing a murder. Like a yandere, she planned on ending the life of her lover along with her own so they could be together. This plan was carried out on the 23rd of May, 2019. Yuka asked Phoenix to come to her apartment to help her with cleaning and came to her house around noon. But as time was delayed a couple hours as Phoenix had a busy day of work, he came to her house pretty late at night and took a quick shower and laid in bed with Yuka, so he fell asleep in her arms. A little while later, he would wake up to a sharp pain on his side. When he opened his eyes, he saw the bedsheets were stained with his blood, and his girlfriend Yuka was staring with a crazed stare whilst brandishing a large kitchen knife. In a moment of panic, Phoenix tried to flee as Yuka gave chase, and Phoenix tried his hardest to flee from his attacker. He managed to get to the lobby, but at this time, he began to fall over as he was losing consciousness due to the excessive blood loss. Before that, he begged and pleaded for his life in a moment of despair. He asked for mercy from his attacker before he finally fell unconscious. But his efforts weren't in vain, as first responders made it to the scene, and when they had arrived, they saw Yuka all bloodied on top of Phoenix's body. She was smoking a cigarette and was on the phone with a friend. She seemed unfazed by her surroundings and was ignoring the police who were trying to talk to her. There was a picture of the bloody scene that you could find on the internet. But I will warn you and say that the picture isn't for the faint of heart. Police took her into custody with no resistance. She intended to die after she killed off Phoenix, and she was unapologetic about the whole incident. There was footage of the scene, and she was seen smiling at one point. She deemed her actions as an act of love. She wanted to die alongside her partner, to be with him. Whatever that means, I'm not too sure what she meant by this. Fortunately, Phoenix was rushed to the hospital, and after some time, his condition would stabilize after 5 days in the hospital. Phoenix was tough as nails as he defied the odds. Doctors thought that he had a slim chance of surviving, and he pulled through. He went to do surgery to repair the damage that was done at the hands of Yuka. But Phoenix not only was tough, but he also had balls of steel as he would return to work after fully recovering from the incident on the 1st of July, 2019. He forgave Yuka for nearly ending his life. While in the hospital, they tried to contact any blood relatives. In a wholesome twist, he reconnected with his sibling, which he had lost contact with and was separated from for years. His sales also increased, as people had rooted for him and some of the girls were awaiting his return. The man took the incident in stride and held no grudges or any ill will towards her. The internet soon caught news of this incident, and she was labeled as a real-life yandere by the internet, which she shares a lot in common with the typical yandere trope, a sweet person who is soon shown to be an emotionally unstable person who is obsessed with their lover to the point of killing anyone who might get in between them. People surprisingly started to fawn over her, with art of her as a yandere girl from an anime, and some less than savory men talked about her beauty with their thirsty posting, some people claiming she's too beautiful to be a murder suspect while overlooking the glaring attempted murder. People who defended her were on some serious copium, and they did everything to support her even though she was clearly in the wrong. There was a fundraiser that was made for her to help her pay for her legal fees. A whopping total of $3,800 were raised, but the post was taken down because it was mass reported. After being in custody, they found Yuka's diary, which was found at her apartment with some pages written in blood where she professed her love to Phoenix, and her phone contained a note. Her mental state was clearly bad, and this note confirmed her delusion. In that note, she said, "I want to be a tragic heroine. How is it possible for him to look at a woman other than me? I know killing him is for the best." On December 3rd, 2019, her trial began, and things weren't looking too good for her, as she could be facing up to 10 years behind bars. But, for some reason, she was only charged with attempted murder and was forced to pay 5 million yen, which is $5,000, as well as getting 3 years and 6 months in prison. Phoenix asked the judge to give her a lighter sentence, and it seems crazy that she was let off with a few years in prison. She's expected to get out around the summer in the year 2023 for attempted murder. I'm sorry, but this case is a little too bizarre for me to even look at. From the thirsty fans to the measly 3-year sentence she got, I find it strange that this case ended the way it did. There seems to be not a lot of consequences for her almost taking a life. The only thing I can really do is hope that she found the help she needed and is able to come back to society without too many issues. Even though she didn't get too hard of a sentence, she might still face issues, at least socially, because of her reputation as a real-life yandere. People might be a little put off because of her past, and it might be difficult to find a job or even be accepted by others when she does eventually come back to society. Thank you for watching the video, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, and if you're new, subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!